All right. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Gents Talk Pod. Today we have a special guest with us, an international celebrity chef, David Rocco. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, no, I was looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're really excited to talk to you about all things food and entrepreneurship. Because you opened up a restaurant rather. Really, a bar.
I told my mom it's just a restaurant. I didn't want to tell her I opened up a bar.
She wouldn't approve?
It means different things, right? Nothing good happens at a bar, so.
But you opened up the bar right in the middle of COVID.
Yeah.
Maybe let's start there. What was the thinking behind that?
I look back and I am like, I probably had shit for brains. It was like COVID brain. But no, I was walking home. I remember vividly, a really crappy day. Everyone was kind of depressed. I went to work every day because in my production office, everyone was working at home. So I would like leave the home and just get inspired and go to the office. So I'm walking home and I see this place that I walked by maybe 1,000 times in the last 5 years, and it was for lease. And there's an real estate agent about to show it, and he's like knocking on the window. He goes, "Hey, Rocco, come here." He goes, "Why don't you open up something here? It'd be so amazing. Yorkville needs it." And I'm like, yeah. So I went in and I kind of looked around and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Yeah, maybe, Yorkville needs a little chiquetti, an aperitivo bar. So, I thought, I'm going to kind of talk to my wife tonight over a glass of wine. And I said, there's this crazy little place. You know that place? And she goes, "Oh, yeah, I walk by there all the time." I said, "Well, it's available." I go, "Why don't we open up a little place?" And so kind of over dinner, we just talked and kind of we both got excited. The next day, we made an appointment to see it. And Monday, I signed like the lease. It came and went so fast. It was, and this was like December 2020, like in the midst of lockdown. Christmas was canceled. People were like, afraid, and, no one knew what was going on. And you heard the restaurants were all closing and this and that, and we decided to open up a place.
Yeah, what was going through your mind, though, when you're like the point of restaurants were closing and you're going, I want to open one?
I think it was about feeling inspired, getting excited. At that time, I just finished a project. We just finished editing on our series Dolce Southeast Asia, and so I was about to look at what's going to be that next project, and I thought, maybe it's this, but it was more about feeling inspired or wanting to feel inspired and jump into a project, because I'm the type of guy that I need to be busy and I need to be out of the house kind of working on things, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to actually work with my wife on a project that we always thought, we might one day want to do. And so the timing just felt strangely right. When everyone was like kind of getting out of the industry, we jumped in, and it's a bit crazy. I mean, I look back and I'm like, wow, that was like, we must have, been, I don't know, had COVID brain or something. Like it made no sense.
Was that like the first time you worked with your wife?
No, my wife and I, she is executive producer on my series. Together, we developed our production company, our TV shows, and then when we had kids, she, took a step back, stayed home, and worked on, the family production, i.e. the kids, and, running the household. And I consult with her all the time, and she's a big part of the business. But, I mean, it was the first time in about 12 years that we went back and worked, full on together from inception, kind of concept to, okay, how are we going to execute it? And she was basically, the lead on the project, because we built the place, during COVID.
Nice. What lessons, I guess, did you learn? Because you said you worked with her before, and then she took the break, and then you go back into working with your wife. What is some of the takeaways that you might be able to instill in others when it comes to working with their partners? Because oftentimes that's a recipe for
disaster.
Disaster, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I had a lot of experience working with her. I think, age has a way of maturing you and, making things, giving you clarity. I think when I was younger, in our first couple of seasons of the show, not that we'd argue more. It wasn't about that we had, strong differences. And I think we were still figuring out our skill set as a couple or as individuals and how we can make things work. And I think this time around, I said, okay, she's way smarter than me. She has a better eye. She's more talented. I'll just let her take the lead. And I was more on the, kind of the creative, this is how I want to see it. This is the kind of food I want to, do. But like when it came to the trades, she took the lead on that. When it came to kind of organizing, the actual build out, she did it all. I mean, she's just pretty brilliant. So I think this was almost, okay, I've read the script before. I'm just going to take a step back and let her take the lead because she's really good at it. She's way better than I would ever get or I would ever be. Mm. So I think ego kind of softens a bit. I was
going to say, yeah. So it's almost like you're keeping your ego in check.
Well, I think you also become smarter as you grow and become more mature. And like, I don't have to be right. And most of the time I'm not. And she adds so much value. So why am I fighting it? Or why, it's like, let her do it. Plus I was also running, the business as well, which is the TV production company. So there was a lot going on during that time. And
I want to get into that. How did you manage to continue running all of this peak COVID?
Well, you feel the fear, you jump in and you just do it. And we did a series at home based on, the lockdown. We so many people were at home cooking and videoing and this and that. And I had, after about 6 weeks of being home and getting a little antsy, my daughter, who was videotaping a lot of stuff, she said, Dad, why don't you do a show here? You don't have to travel. I mean, pre-COVID, I was on the road 22 weeks of the year.
Wow.
Yeah.
Half the year.
Yeah, it was a long time. I mean, the family would come with me for about 12 weeks. It depends. But it was back and forth. And so it's like, no. And then as I started thinking about it, I called up my director and my my DOP, and we did a little pilot. My kids were very active in it. My daughter's like, how you travel and you speak to people. She goes, why don't you just have people from all different parts of the world, different walks of life come into the home and you have a little chat with them and you talk all things food and life and purpose and, what makes people get up in the morning. And, so it's a bit of a podcast meets cooking show. These are my 13-year-old kids, 12-year-old at the time. So we we shot a pilot and I remember my daughter looking at it and say, Dad, no, it's too Food Network. We need to see shadows. We need to see kind of, we need to have it more moodier. We need it to be like a little more Caravaggio. Like she's describing certain things. And like my director and I, we look at it, it has to be more European. So, 3 months later, we shot 26 episodes.
Wow. Nice. How was that process?
At home.
Like to go from nothing to 26 episodes in 3 months.
It was 3 months later. It took us more than 3 months to shoot. It was tough. Production's always tough. And I think this was more amplified because I had 3 people living in my home. Our director and our sound guy and our production person, because it was a limited crew. And so we had to work with a limited, we couldn't have people coming in and out of the house. We were still on, lockdown, and guests would come with like, what do you mean you're having me come? And, what's the COVID protocol? I'm like, well, are you coughing? Do you have a fever? No. Okay. So go, just come. Like, let's not overthink this. Right. Like, what's your bubble? Listen, we're here. Over. Like, just come over. Don't take public transit. We'll give you $10, take the Uber and please. And if you're not feeling well, come the next day. Yeah. It's always been a bit, I've always worked kind of like, we joke, my wife and I, we say we're a bunch of cowboys, we just get shit done. We just do it. We start overthinking. And I actually did the show without a broadcaster. I kind of self-financed it because it was too complicated, because as soon as I brought in a broadcaster, they were like, well, what are your COVID policies, Mr. Rocco? And, what insurance do you have for it? I'm like, oh, fuck that. We're going to get this shit done because we need to get this done. And we just got it done. I mean, we were obviously very careful. My wife didn't want COVID coming into the house either.
Sure,
we obviously didn't want to get anyone sick. And, that was obviously a priority. But, the big thing was getting a show done and doing it during really tough times. Like it was, a crazy period.
Yeah.
Was there ever a point where you thought this is not going to work?
Oh, every day of my life.
How'd you deal with that though?
I learned after season 1, back in 2003, I've done 195 episodes that have aired globally. And
congratulations.
Thank you.
Huge.
And it's always the same insecurity, the same feeling. After the first show, it's like riding a bike. Yeah, I know how to ride it now. But you're always, after season 1, it's like, what do I do? It's like sleepless nights. Can I do this? And, a mentor, kind of a dear friend who works on our show as a consultant, she said, feel the fear, embrace it, understand that it's there, and just do it. And, and then next day it gets easier and just a lot easier. So in this case, you kind of, you're saying, oh my God, I'm shooting at my home. Is it going to be interesting? Is it going to be what my broadcasters expect? Or is it just going to be a stand-in stir? Like, how do we keep the level? And there was always that playing. And it was like, well, we're in it now. Let's just do it, and we'll fix it in post. No, but it was just.
That's why you asked at the beginning if we can edit, right?
Yeah. Of course. Well, you got to do a lot of editing with me. I tell you. But during season 1, I was known as 2-take or 20-take Tony. It's like, well, fix it in post, folks. Yeah.
But so you're going through this. You're fighting through that fear and that insecurity of, how do I continue to build on this? Is there something that now that when you look back on, if younger you was standing in front of you, you could share some insight with them?
Well, it's almost the same feeling I had with the bar. You do something, and the older I get, I realize, him or her or those guys, they're not better than me. You put in the work ethic, you have kind of an idea, and just inch closer. How do you have to get there? And so, I'll take the bar because that was maybe there was more, I don't want to say anxiety, but it was a little like TV production is like riding a bike. I mean, I can do it closing my eyes. It's, we do it. We have our stories, we have our concept, and we'll figure it out. Mm. But opening up a bar, where I knew that, so my wife, I wasn't sure if I wanted to put my name on the bar.
Okay.
I don't know. There's moments where I get a little shy about that. I'm like, do we? So I remember talking to some friends in Singapore who have an ad agency, and my wife's like, you're an idiot. You have to have your name on the bar. She goes, that's you, it's the brand, and it's really, people will come for you. Mm-hmm. And so I wasn't sure. It was like, I was being a bit gun shy. Also, the insecurity, what if it's not successful? So I spoke to some friends in Singapore who I'd worked with in the past, have a big ad agency, and I said, I'm opening up a little cocktail bar, kind of, it's going to be a little kind of beta test, a little pop-up, because we only have the building for 3 years. So it's just like literally just a pop-up. And I go, I'm thinking of this name. And they go, no, it has to be David Rocco in there. And I'm like, really? And they go, yeah. Like, they go, dude, we've paid you to come from Toronto to Singapore. We've paid you to go to Bombay because it's your name, not because it's, Joe down the street. Like, are you an idiot? And when he said that, I'm like, well, yeah, it's true. I do get paid because of my name. So it just, yeah. But I think when I look back, it was because of, what if I fail? Yeah. Like, what if it's not successful? What if, and there will be people that will come out with daggers, right? And it's like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm doing this more for myself than for anyone else. I've always wanted to have a little cocktail bar, a little aperitivo bar. I wanted to introduce an aperitivo kind of culture to Toronto, which really we don't really have. And, as I look back, that was just fear speaking. That was just insecurity and all the rest of it. So, here it is now, David Rocco Bar Aperitivo. Whether I like it or not, it's...
Well, do you feel any different now?
Well, yeah, because now I look at it and understand that's fear. And really, it's about the journey. I don't want to sound like this kind of guy, that's so cute, the journey, and let's all, hold hands and sing Kumbaya. And no, but it really is about the journey.
It really is, yeah.
It's so about the journey because I didn't open it as my main source of income or business. I opened it because it was something I always wanted to do. It was a pet project. And, my wife said to me, you want to do this, and so do it. Make no excuses and don't be apologetic. This is your vision, and just own it and just do it and embrace it. So now I look at it and I get immense joy from it, a lot of friggin' headaches from it because, I'm still kind of, but I love it. I love people, I love food, and I love kind of hosting, and I just love, being in an environment where it's an extension of my home, myself, my values, my kind of food style. And so it's been good, but I have recognized over the last 6 months, this is, for me, just a journey, and it's part of, my experience and something I've always wanted to do. So I have to enjoy it because of that. And every time shit hits the fan, or you got problems here or there, because running a business, if it was easy, everyone would do it. I always say to myself, no, this is okay. This is what you signed up for, and it's totally cool. Just run with it and enjoy it, embrace it.
Okay.
Hey, when you first got it, after the quick turnaround, how did that feel when it's okay, this is the dream?
Of the bar?
Yeah.
Or of the TV show?
The bar.
Well, first of all, we opened August 3rd, 2001. We had just come off, I think we got reopened, i.e. the city.
Sorry, you meant 2021.
2021.
Yeah, you said 2001.
Oh, yeah.
How long has COVID been happening?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, 2021, August 3rd.
Feels like it's
right, exactly. And and we had just reopened, I think it was 4 weeks. It's so crazy when you think back. And I remember we have a great outdoor patio. And inside, what do? We do communal seating. What do we do in our patio? Communal seating. What does that mean? We have these benches and places to sit. And so I remember, my staff, and it was also hard to get staff. It was crazy.
I heard even now it's still
difficult.
difficult.
We've been lucky. Staff that's come, stayed. We have a great kind of energy and kind of work kind of policy and style, and a lot of freedom. I always say, guys, people will come the first time for me, but then they'll come for you. I'm not always there. In fact, I'm seldom there. I like to pop in a lot because it's on my way to work, and there's nothing like a good Negroni before heading home. But so when we opened up this patio, I remember, part of the experience was about giving people a joyous kind of feeling and having people not feel that they're alone. You can go to a patio with a friend and you're sitting at a table and there's, someone else at another table and you're only having interaction with your friend, which is fine, right? But people were coming by themselves and they would sit and there would be a person right next to you. And I remember people were like, Rocco, this is crazy. We're just coming out of a pandemic. And I remember having a meeting the day after we opened, and I spoke to all the hostesses. I said, ladies, I said, here's what we have to say. We have to say, have you been here before? Which clearly they hadn't, but you'd ask the question. It was like a couple of days. I said, okay, well, this is a kind of an alternative way of kind of enjoying a cocktail. It's, we understand it might not be comfortable for you, but it's communal seating. You'll be sitting with people that you don't know. You might be uncomfortable because you're a little close, but if you don't feel comfortable, we totally understand, and we invite you to come back when we're not busy. People would come, they would sit down, people want to get out. They wanted.
They were done.
They were done. And I remember people would come to me and go, I feel so happy. I don't feel alone. People would come by themselves in the neighborhood, and I would see people buying drinks for each other. And it was kind of like being in Florence when my first experience with the aperitivo, which was, you go after work, or you go and, you have this cocktail, and you'd meet people and be one big party. And so it was really interesting, and it was that leap of faith. I knew it wasn't, going to be widely accepted, but we didn't need it to be something for everyone, because we only have 25 seats inside, and on our patio we have 60. But so we can't be all things to all people. We just wanted to find our niche, our kind of audience, and just be something different.
And you're finding even now today, it still works. The concept still works.
Absolutely. I feel this is going to be the new trend, not because of what I'm doing. It's it's your tapas bar in Barcelona, it's your Cicchetti bar in Venice, it's your aperitivo bar in Milan or Florence. People don't want to, I think, sit down and have a long meal, or they want to have small bites, they want to have cocktails, they want to be able to have the flexibility of spending as much or as little as they want, and I think they want to be with each other. You were
in
there,
that communal style. Yeah.
Communal style, easy, sharing, but also just where there's it's fast food, i.e., because it's we serve it quickly, quality, and it's also this feeling of especially if you've been there a few times, you really feel you're at home.
I can definitely vouch for the quality. Quality was good.
Yeah,
but that concept of sitting communal style. Was at first when I walked in, I was like, okay, this is different.
Yeah.
But then it doesn't feel, you think it's going to be weird, but then the minute you sit down and then somebody sits down immediately next to you, it doesn't change anything.
It's interesting because I think, have you been to Europe?
Yes.
You've been to Barcelona, or you've been to
Barcelona, Venice, Florence.
So you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. And now I'm asking you.
It's weird.
That's what I'm saying. Now I'm going to ask you the question. You wouldn't think twice if you were there.
No, not at all.
Here, though, it's like, what do you mean? I got to sit next to a stranger.
Yeah.
So when we open, and to this day, we don't take reservations. We don't have a phone. We have no phone. Like, people are like, you can't open up at no. I'm like, okay, guys, there's 25 seats. If we can't fill this place, there's a problem.
Yeah.
And we don't take reservations. I mean, we do if it's for a big party, but you have to email us. And if we're busy, I always tell people, if we're busy, you know what? We'll give you a glass of bubbly. We'll give you some Chianti. Have, stand up on the sidewalk or inside, and just like you would do in Italy. And you know what? It's really interesting because now the rules of alcohol have kind of chilled a bit, have loosened a bit. So in the summertime, we would have people in line with an Aperol Spritz, and we would walk by and give them little nibbles, and they would wait for something to come up.
Yeah.
And then sometimes they say, you know what, we're good just standing up on the sidewalk. And they would spill. And we had this it was great because people would often say, I feel like I've seen this scene in Venice or in Florence. And we have wine barrels, and our patio is really cool. And it was deliberate. And it's not easy to kind of copy, because we're in a different mindset where people are, well, what do you mean I can't reserve a table for two? Like, hey, honey, we don't have a table for two. We have a table for 14, another table for 6, another table for 8. So, but I think people are getting it, actually, absolutely. But it's like you said, in Europe, you buy it. Here, you're kind of, okay. Yeah.
Do you see yourself opening up another location?
Yeah.
Like, do you see yourself franchising this?
So we did a pop-up for TIFF. We did House of Peroni for David Rocco Bar Aperitivo. We did 7,500 covers. It was an aperitivo bar at TIFF. We were right by the red carpet, and it was exactly my vision. It was just, okay, this is it. I've done something in Malaysia. So we are looking at kind of expanding it, making it into kind of a pop-up style. In Toronto, would I open up another one? Absolutely. It has to be the right fit. It has to be the right environment, space, etc.
Would you make it more people, less people?
I think there's a sweet spot. I think I wouldn't make it. Right now, we're like 560 square feet. Yeah. I wouldn't make it more than 1,000. Like, it has to have a certain kind of feel. It has to be that hole in the wall where it is different, and you have to pick your poison. Like, what are you?
Yeah. And just stick with it.
Yeah, and you know, we understand, you know, I understand what the purpose was. I wasn't because I want to showcase, hey, I'm a chef and these are my recipes. Although I did have an idea of my meatballs had to be a certain way. My eggplant parm had to be a certain way. There was no way I was going to veer off certain things. And I had to have those two dishes where people come in just for those.
Mm. Okay.
Yeah.
And, okay. You do a lot of traveling, obviously.
Yeah.
And you look at a place like Toronto, you open up your store here. And then do you see the culinary space in Toronto and in Canada as a whole competing on an international level? Like, if you had a blank slate, would you start here? And if not, why?
I think Toronto's a great city. I think the problem are the Torontonians.
Okay.
No, because we always look at everywhere else being better, everywhere else being, you know, and we struggle with just embracing our own concepts, our own thing. Mm-hmm. And I think, case in point, it's like people will come in, it's like, oh, what do you mean I can't reserve? What do you mean you got no phone? And I'm like, would you make a reservation at a tapas bar in Barcelona? And they're looking at me, no, but we're in Toronto. I'm like, well, what's the difference? And so we're always struggling with, you know, conventional kind of, you know, food and beverage kind of hospitality, how Toronto is versus when we're away, we kind of embrace all those cool things that we think are cool, but never work here. So, so would I say Toronto would be my first place to open? Probably not. I love Toronto. I'm a proud Canadian, proud Torontonian, but you know what? It's a fickle fucking market. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, you are.
Okay,
I'm surprised it's taking you this long.
No, I got dropped. I say shit for brains, but but it is a real fickle market where, and it's everyone can always, you know, do it better somewhere else. But Toronto, it's a great scene. I think there's great chefs, great restaurants, and yeah.
Do you think being an entrepreneur, specifically in the hospitality industry, has gotten easier? It's the same. It's harder.
And it's hard. Yeah. It is really, really
What makes
hard.
it so difficult? We hear it a lot. We've talked to a few chefs here on the podcast. We've had Chef Devin. We've had Chef Wallace Wong. And they've talked about sort of running kitchens is extremely difficult.
Well, I mean, the labor market is difficult right now. I mean, almost in every single sector, you know, people are struggling to find staff. They're struggling to keep it together. Restaurants are challenging. The profit is, you know, profit margins are razor thin. You have a lot of transient mindset. I'll work here for a bit and then I'll work here. So it's become far more difficult than it was pre-COVID. I think you have to love it. I think you have to love food. You have to love people, and you have to love hosting.
Hosting is an interesting one. I've never heard of it that way.
Well, I look at it. I mean, you kind of, when you came, you caught me off guard.
Well, you were doing your thing. You were talking to everybody.
Well, I was like my wife. My wife calls me the princess of the people. Like, she's like, oh, little princess, right? And she likes to poke fun because we cannot go there if we want like quiet time. There's impossible, obviously. But I love going to talk to people and just making them feel special. It's their place. It's, first of all, they're shocked sometimes that they go, oh my God, and I'll walk, and if there's like menus on it, I'll pick it up and they'll look at me, oh my God, and you're even like clearing the menus. And I said, well, listen, give me your jacket. I'll be the coat check boy. And it's like, and everyone laughs, and I love being there, and I love making people feel good and offering suggestions, and just almost it's an extension of my home. And it's fun because I love what we serve, I love what we do, and I know that being there sometimes, I think I can read an audience if there's a date and you don't want to interrupt them, but our place may not be the place. If you want quiet, intimate kind of, then don't come to our place. But for the most part, it's just, I love, walking the room and just, having a drink. I usually have a glass of wine in my hand. It's really fun. And, the other thing is I like to offer a lot of things. I let people try some wine and they'll look at me like, do I owe it? No, I go, no, it's just on me. And they're shocked. And it's like, well, no, it's what?
It's very inviting.
It's also very Italian,
I was going to say, it's like you're inviting them to your house.
And it's just like, sometimes I'll just grab a bottle and I'll just kind of top up their glass and they'll look at me like, oh, that was totally unexpected. We don't get that anywhere in Toronto. I'm like, well, this is...
Well, they used to do that in a lot of places.
Yeah.
I think a lot of restaurants have changed the way they treat guests in a lot of ways.
Yeah, so we try and have a more relaxed environment. Yeah.
And so the show itself, how do you manage... It's one thing to manage a show that's local. It's another to manage a show that's now international. How do you keep on top of all of that? The different time zones, the different productions, the different everything.
We have a small office in Rome where we have one of our producers that kind of does research for us, and we seek out cities and countries that there's a connection to. And then everything is the same. It's, you go out and you try and make the best television, be real, make connections with the locals. And we've been blessed because it seems like we're there at the right time and we meet the right person, and just the show has a loose format that allows us for wonderful opportunities that come up. We were in Soweto, and we were in South Africa, Johannesburg. It was our last show. And then we have a flight back. Everything's paid for. Everything's there. So, time is money. And the person that we were supposed to have on the show just basically doesn't show up, decides to go to Cape Town. I don't know why, but we're like, shit out of luck. We're fucked. So we spend a day, and my producer and I were like, okay, do we go into panic? And they go, no. We got a Neapolitan background, Italian background. We're going to go to the market, and we're going to go and just kind of see what happens. We're going to film it, and one thing led to another, and we're invited to someone's house for a braai, a barbecue. We end up meeting someone who was involved with the Soweto Gospel Choir. We're invited to their rehearsal. We go there, and little did we know, they have 7 Grammys. They're unbelievable, and we're now do a show on them.
Wow. And
so you got to almost be open to kind of those opportunities and the craziness. So one thing that's really great, our show airs on National Geographic, and they're hugely supportive of what we do. They allow us to be filmmakers, guys that do documentary, and unlike other broadcasters that sometimes want to see scripts, and I'm like, scripts? I don't know what the hell's going to happen when I go to Bombay, and I don't know what's going to happen when I'm in, Ho Chi Minh City. It's like, and if you think you know what's going to happen, you're like smoking like major, crack. And so our broadcaster allows that kind of organic filmmaking, and so it's been wonderful for us because we really embrace those opportunities that come up, and sometimes they come up in such unexpected ways.
And how do you come up with the new concepts? Like, is it just, it comes to you and you're like, you know what, I'm going to do this? Or do you actually allocate time to say, okay, today is my creative time. I'm going to start thinking about the next thing?
Shows or in terms of business
I'm
opportunities?
I'm going to say everything, business opportunities. Because you also now, I was going to get to it a little later, but you have your new lineup of sauces.
Yeah.
And so that's another element to the David Rocco empire, we'll call it.
Yeah. Well, I think when it comes to shows, we do research. We allow, parameters to happen because, creativity happens when you have parameters. If you're all over the map, but you go and we always like to showcase the arts, music. There's some great graffiti artists that we highlighted in Johannesburg, and they always have a pulse on the city. And we're also very creative as a team, and we work really well as a team. When it comes to myself as, a business guy, and I say no more than I say yes to opportunities. If I don't love it, if I don't feel that there is a win-win, and I mean that because, if it's only good for me, then it's never going to last. It has to be a win-win. And so with the sauces, that was totally out of COVID. Right now, when you think of how, where your life is, it's, well, what did you plant 2 years ago? I think we can all ask ourselves, even you guys, podcast, what did you do to make it happen? And if you look back, you can connect the dots very easily. So COVID, at home, filming, my daughter's, hey, Dad, why don't you do this? Okay, and we do a television series. COVID, filming, cooking. My God, Dad, your sauces are so good. Why don't you do pasta and sauces? Forget it. It's never going to happen. Kids say it enough, and then you start saying, well, why not? And so that kind of got me thinking. COVID, walked by my new bar location. The hell, why not? I mean, got a great lease.
Yeah.
So I look back, and it was during these moments. I think I'm open. As a company, we're very nimble. We're very entrepreneurial. My wife and I are both entrepreneurs. We're the son of immigrants. We don't take no as an option.
Hustle mentality.
It's the immigrant mentality, right? Her father, my father, my grandfather came with nothing, like literally nothing, and they built decent businesses, and they more than provided. And I think they gave us an example of work ethic, that anything is possible. Like even doing TV. I remember my lawyer. I mean, we're talking 2001. It's not like Instagram now. Everyone has a camera. Everyone's a filmmaker. We're talking about like budgets, line items, and this and that. And I remember my lawyer, who's no longer my lawyer now, in those early days, like, you guys can't. We're in his office. He goes, you guys can't be producers. And my wife said, well, why not? And he goes, well, 'cause you guys don't know what you're doing. My wife said, well, I've seen some of this shit on TV, and I can tell you we can do it better. So he basically said, you're fucked. Like, you guys are nuts. You guys, that's not how that's not how the industry happens. And so I remember we walked out of his office. My wife turns around and says, she goes, what, fuck that. She goes, let's go shoot a pilot. We took our house money, deposit.
Okay.
And we went to Italy and we shot a pilot, but not like a 5-minute little demo. We shot a pilot. Full on 22 minutes, 30 seconds, commercial blacks, commercial throws, the opener of the show, everything. Because we knew when we came back and we showed this lawyer and the Food Network, if it wasn't anything but a full-on episode, they were like, okay, so you got lucky for 5 minutes. Yeah, but can you do an episode? We don't think so. So we went, we filmed, we came back, we used our wedding videographer to do kind of a little sample. Then we hired like an edit suite, an editor, and we created our first pilot, which was eventually part of 13 episodes. Went into Food Network, and I remember a wonderful executive there who was a real cheerleader. She wanted us to do well. She looked at it and she goes, "It's remarkable." And she called her other executives, and they watched the entire show. She goes, "This is like beyond crazy because you guys took a huge leap." And she I remember she said, "Now we have to take a leap and work with you guys." And we were never asked again about working with an experienced producer.
Wow. That leap of faith must have been like the fear that must have been there.
But it's like any entrepreneur, anyone that opens up their own place. The immigrant that opens a shawarma place, the Ethiopian that opens up the little hole-in-the-wall restaurant, the Italian, like whoever. It's scary. It's scary, but you have to have the faith. You have to have the vision. You have to know where. It's like riding a bike or driving a car. You don't have to look at, every 5 feet. You have to look, where do I want to go? And just, every day I'll get there. And so, that was basically a huge learning experience, because I've used that almost in every single thing I've done where I can do it. And, and I'm a bit of a lone wolf in that sense.
Is there like a mantra you say to yourself all the time? Like anything that you just like, for me, it's like feeling bad, like, oh, you got this. Like, every time you said there's always something going on. So it's like anything when you're feeling bad, just like you tell yourself over and over again.
Well, my wife says this all the time, and I say it now. Nothing's at the end of the world, except the end of the world. So like nothing's as bad as you think. Like nothing. And the harder you work, the luckier you get. Yeah. And
Isn't luck really just putting yourself in a position to do something when the opportunity presents itself?
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's the residue of hard work. It's just But can we talk about the sauces?
Yeah, please. Yeah.
The sauces was an interesting kind of venture, because for about 15 years I kept on fighting it. I shouldn't say
Why were you so resistant?
Because I do very well with endorsements. So, 8 years ago I worked with one of the largest pasta companies in the world. It was a 4-year deal, helped pay for my house. I mean, it was a big opportunity, and I was always worried about, once I start going up against the big boys, then that's it. They'll never hire me again. Obviously, now I'm a competition with them. And in 2016, I had my own wine. I had a Chianti, a Pinot Grigio, and Prosecco. Had that at the LCBO, had that at the SAQ. And I realized, or I saw some of my alcohol endorsements kind of shrink up, because even if my wine wasn't in direct conflict with, a beer company, in their eyes,
you're a competition.
Yeah, you're now in our barn house,
Right.
So I always felt, do I really want to do a food line? And I always think about this, or I always ask myself this: are you doing something for ego, which is okay? Or are you doing it because it expands the business? And you have to really be honest with yourself, because if you're doing it for ego, that's totally cool, and it is what it is. Embrace it. I want to have my name on a wine, and great. If you're doing it because it expands the business, then you have better focus of why you're doing it. So with the pasta and sauces, for the longest time I was saying no, because I didn't feel that the brand was mature enough. And I always recognized that if I did it, it was only for ego. Oh, cool. Not everyone, but you're a chef. You want your fucking name on a sauce and pasta, sauce. Right? And then what? And, because I had a lot of guys contact me saying, hey, can we license your name? Hey, can we do this? Hey, can you do that? And I always felt, and then what? I mean, I didn't feel that the brand was mature enough.
Can you explain that concept of brand maturity?
Well, I mean, my kids laugh at me because it's like, Dad, you've been doing this like forever. Like your old shows, you got hair and this and that. I've been doing this forever.
Right.
And longevity and being relevant in your space and having broadcasters around the world. Anyone can get on Instagram. Now, I'm not bashing the Instagrammers or social media. That's wonderful. Yay. I'm not saying that. But it's free. Mm-hmm. Easy access. Television still is the holy grail. You still want, because there's limited days, there's limited hours, and there's budgets. So we've been able to continue in television and have broadcasters around the world, like we're on National Geographic, or we're on Hola TV in Spain, and it allows us to continue and have a relevancy. And for the brand, I think, you can leverage that because you have the foundation. You just didn't come a couple of years ago. You have a body of work that demonstrates execution. You can do it. And for the most part, there's an audience that appreciates your work. And I think that when I look at endorsements or rather products and projects, I always say, are we ready for this? Is the brand mature? And so the name, to put on a pasta is was pretty daunting maybe 5 years ago. And yet now it just felt right because I felt I earned it. It's, we've done over 190 episodes. Our shows air in Italy, and the Italians will say, hey, okay, the Italian Canadian, okay, he's not full of shit. Like the Instagram haters will say, but, and so you feel you're at a place where you say, I deserve it. This is a worthy project. This is something that I can put my 20 years behind me, and I can leverage all my sweat equity into this. And again, it takes me back to adding David Rocco to Bar Aperitivo. I mean, looking back, it was no brainer. Like, I'd be crazy not to. Companies pay to use my name or to have me at an event. Why, when I have it for my own? Again, it was also insecurity. Oh my God, now I better perform. Now it better be successful. So I think with the pasta, it's the same thing. It's like, no, we can actually do something. And so I worked with the sauces. We have the classic pomodoro and basilico, tomato and basil. We have the pecorino and ricotta, a puttanesca. We have all different flavors, really unique. Because of course, I said, okay, no, first thing I'm going to get is all my cousins saying, hey, Rocco, we do our fucking sauce. Like, are you kidding me? Like, are you a moron, Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no, try this because this will blow you away. And, because I know the Italian audience is saying, we can do it and we can do it better. And I'm like, no, bullshit. Try this shit. This is really good. And so I worked with a company in Italy, and we just, during the pandemic, we were shipping things back and forth, and I really put my stamp on it. Even when it comes to the pasta, I didn't want to have just a regular dried pasta. I wanted to have something that was unique, a unique kind of, that felt homemade. And so our pasta is from the Puglia region, and it's dried for 18 hours. So it's nothing like the commercial brand, because it's like, what's my differentiator? What's my value proposition? Why is someone going to give me their money and their attention? Yeah, they'll give it to me once. You'll come into my bar once. But then if the environment doesn't make you want to come again, then, we've kind of failed. I'll get you once. But if that sauce is not amazing, if that pasta is not amazing, I'll get you once. And by the way, it's amazing, guys. It's from Italy. No, you've been to Italy. You've been to Italy.
I've not been in Italy.
Oh, okay, man. We got to send you to Italy. You've been to Italy?
I have, but I'll go again.
Yeah, exactly. But, when you step off that plane and you're at the auto grill, the gas station, and you're eating something, you say, oh, shit, ooh, like, this is like unbelievable, right? Because it has that Italian, like the tomatoes taste like tomatoes.
Everything just was so,
right?
flavorful and rich and
so different.
Yeah.
And that's how our sauce is. Like, I'm super proud of it.
I found when I was in Florence, it was the food in Florence in particular. I could go back and live in Florence because of that, the architecture,
the olive oil,
the wine, everything. Florence for me was number one.
Yeah, I gave you some olive oil, right? No, not as a gift. When you're at the restaurant, I drizzle some olive oil.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, so it's like my private stash. So part of my shtick, because it's like really good olive oil is really expensive, right? So I always have a couple of bottles that were just flown in for me. And when there's guests and they're having their meatballs, I'll say, hey, listen, try some olive oil, and I'll just drizzle. So it's just that little touch, and it's also some storytelling and things that I absolutely love is olive oil.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Well, it adds that personal touch too, right?
Right.
And that's what you're doing is you're hosting.
Yeah. I always call it the Italian MSG. Yeah, that shit's good and healthy.
It's addictive too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So from an entrepreneur's perspective, you know, you've got these different lineups of sauces, you've got the bar, you've got the show. Is there anything else on the horizon? Anything else that David looks at and goes, this is an area I might want to venture into? You said you did wine at one point. Do you still do wine?
No. I got out of it. LCBO is like, it's a tough racket.
Is it really?
Yeah, they're it's government, right? So there's a different mandate. There's a different, that's a whole different. Yeah. We won't get into it, boys. Well, we're going to expand the product line. I just want to listen. I love what I do. I really get excited. I love food. I love people. I feel like I'm in the perfect space for all that. I'm really lucky. Yeah, so I'll just continue doing TV and until your kids come up with a new idea. Exactly. But no, I love it. And in terms of things kind of come up. I might leave here and say, oh my God, I should get into podcast. No, but if you asked me in 2019 about a sauce line, you almost sometimes have to be at the right place at the right time to even listen and to actually take it in. That's the other thing. It's almost like when you're mature, when you're ready to listen, the master speaks when the student's ready, so to speak. So I'm not sure what the next project is, but in the meantime, there's enough here for me to continue and loving what I do and continuing what I do. It's kind of been pretty amazing.
Awesome. David, thank you for coming.
This has been really fun.
Yeah,
I told you, it's speeds by.
Time flies.
Time flies, yeah.
Yeah,
this is incredible.
I think they shut the mic off. I think Poncho's like, fuck this, I'm out of here.
No, but honestly, this is incredible. It's cool to see the entrepreneurial spirit, but also just really interesting to hear the whole, the insecurity component and overcoming that and still pushing through that and doing it. And even though there is evidence of success, there's still that hesitation that I think so many people deal with. And to hear you say, you know what, fuck it, I'm still going to do it anyway. And accepting that fear and going through with it, I think is a huge lesson for a lot of people. So thank you for sharing that story.
Yeah, no, thank you. It's been fun. And you actually guys have inspired me just kind of being here and, kind of rehashing it, because you kind of always have to understand where you came from and look at the wins and it motivates you to continue.
Yeah, it's just so interesting that even you're saying they know kumbaya, but like it's what it is. Like people, you don't want to hear it's like the stuff you don't really want to hear because you hear it all the time, but it's still true. Like it still holds true. Like cliches are cliche for a reason.
Yeah, no,
right?
for sure.
And you hate saying them, but it is what it is, right?
Yeah. Well, it's that journey which you have to really embrace and almost like even when shit hits the fan and you have your fails, you almost have to embrace it, especially if you can stand up after it.
Yeah,
100%. And the last 2.5, 3 years, going on 3 years now, shit hit the fan. A lot of people had to figure things out, and that's why it's always so interesting to me when someone comes in and tells us a story of, the world pretty much shut down, but here's what I did, right? I could have just taken the loss and sat there, but instead you opened up a bar, right? Yeah. You kept growing, and I think that's really exciting to see, but it's also inspirational for us to hear that, because it's, if you can do that and you can admit that you had fear and doubts and insecurities and uncertainties and every reason not to do it, but you still chose, I'm going to do it, and here's how I'm going to do it, and here's why I'm going to do it. I think there's a lot that can be learned from that, 100%.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, sir.
Appreciate you, man.